Hey everybody, we'll try this again. This is Sherry Seligson. I am here again outside. Today's a really windy day, and so we're going to be not on the kayak like we were yesterday, but I still want to talk about ecosystems, and so I don't want to have to be blown into the shoreline, and it's hard to navigate on a kayak with one hand, I determined. So anyway, we're going to talk about ecosystems, and so I am at the shore of a lake. This is a very large, or medium-sized lake actually, and we want to talk about ecosystems. So this would be considered a freshwater lake ecosystem, and there's all kinds of organisms that live in this ecosystem with each other and interact with each other. I'm going to try to move in a way that, there we go, try to move in a way that I'm able to see the screen and see you guys. And so we talked a little bit last time when we were out on the water about how organisms live together, and there are certain food chains or food webs, how one organism feeds on another organism and it's fed by another organism. And so I wanted to talk about that. There's different terms we use when we refer to animals like this and other organisms. So for example, all ecosystems have what are called producers. Producers take energy from the sun and make their own food via photosynthesis. They produce their own food. So plants are considered producers. In this ecosystem, algae also would be considered a producer. Algae are not plants, biologically speaking. And so plants and algae take energy from the sun, make their own food, and that's how they live. Now then, there are other organisms called consumers that eat producers. They consume producers and other consumers. And so, for example, you might have in this ecosystem ducks. Ducks will feed off of small algae and other plant materials that grow on the shoreline here of the lake. And so they are considered consumers. They consume the plants. Plants make enough food for themselves, and algae is enough for themselves, plus others. They make plenty. And so the consumers will feed on them. Specific consumers that feed on plants and algae are called herbivores. They eat herb-like materials. And so herbivores are the ones that feed on the plants and feed on the algae. Okay, and then there are other consumers that eat the herbivores, and those are called carnivores. So you can see the vor, which like voracious appetite, has to do with eating, that term. And so the herbivores feed on the herb or plants and algae, and the carnivores feed on the meat. They're the meat eaters. They feed on the duck. So in that particular case, we'd have a food chain that might start with algae, and then the ducks will feed on the algae, and then maybe a hawk would eat a duck. Okay, so that's a three-link food chain. But there's not just food chains in the world. These are very complex systems, ecosystems are. And so it's really more of a web. So there are other organisms that will feed on the plants. Small fishes will feed on the plants. And then bigger fish might feed on the small ones. And then you might have a turtle that feeds on the fish. And then you might have something that feeds on the turtle. And so you have a multi-step or multi-chain food chain in that web of multiple eaters and multiple producers. And that's a very complex organization of how organisms survive here in the lake ecosystem. So looking again at the lake ecosystem, you can see that there's plants all along the edges, and within the ecosystem there are different niches or different smaller places that organisms live. So you can see right here down below me where the shoreline is. Let's see if I can get you guys to see it. Okay, you can see some very small algae right here. This is where you'll see small juvenile fish that will live here. And then the deeper you go, the bigger the animals will be. Again, when I was here last time, we talked about how we've got lots of different animals that live in this lake. We've got some otters, we have some turtles, we have big fish that live here. We have gar, we've got bass, and lots of other smaller fish. And so they feed on one another. That helps to support the health of the lake. Now let's say we came in and we got rid of all of the tiny plants that live on the shoreline here, all the way around the lake. What would that do? Believe it or not, that would cause the lake to get sick, meaning the animals that feed on those small plants around the edges wouldn't have food, and so they would not survive, and the animals that feed on those animals would not survive, and then we'd see some major problems. And that's why we have to talk about and learn about organisms in ecosystems, because when we have an organism group that something happens to it, whether we overfish or overhunt, or whether it's just a natural situation where something happens and a whole group of organisms of one kind die off, that affects not just those organisms and eventually can affect people, because if this lake gets sick and there's lots of dead organisms, then the lake water becomes unhealthy, meaning lots of bacterial growth in here, which means that can affect the underground water called the aquifer. What happens with that aquifer? We get water from that aquifer. That's how we get water to drink. And so we need to have that healthy for us as well. It's just a fascinating subject to talk about, and there's different types of parameters that can affect an ecosystem. You have your biotic factors, which would be overhunting of too many hawks in the area. That could affect it. You have your abiotic factors, or non-living things, like way too many freezes. I live in Central Florida, and we don't get very many freezes where it gets below freezing temperatures. So what could happen if there's way too many freezes? We might lose some of the important plants located in our lake. And so we have a lot of fun looking at the different animals. We have a tiny fake beach right here where we have two turtle nests that have laid their eggs. They're both soft shell turtles, and so I'm monitoring those. If by chance I can catch the young ones hatching, I will definitely pop on here and do a live with you guys. But as we're talking, I want to talk a little bit more about ecosystems and the environment, and whenever we do that, we want to talk about recycling, reusing, repurposing, so we're not producing too many wastes. And so I wanted to end our time together today by doing a fun craft, and this is something I hope everybody will enjoy doing. I'm going to come inside now, and we're going to turn the lights on so everybody can see what's going on, and we're going to use a book that you have that maybe is a book you don't want anymore, a book that's damaged, maybe a book that somebody colored in that shouldn't have colored in it, or maybe some curriculum that you're done using and you want to do something with, rather than putting it in the landfill. So let me show you. This is a really fun and easy activity. Here I am. Okay, so this is a really fun and easy activity you can do. I've done this with books. These are some old books that I found in a resale store, and they're those Reader's Digest condensed book series. And so they're not books that, some people are like, oh, never heard a book. I'm sorry, but some books, it's okay to do. And so just by folding the pages, this particular book fold that I did is each page, the top part I folded down halfway, and then the bottom part I folded a quarter of the way up. And then just continued doing that all the way through. And it made this really fun pattern. And then I take plate racks and hooks and to use, put them on the back to hang them up. Okay, I did another one like this. This one is just, you take groups of pages and you fold them inside. You just bend them over. And then the thicker ones, you took more pages for the center, fewer pages, fewer to make those folds tinier and tinier, and it makes this fun, interesting pattern. And then this one, it looks much more challenging, but it's really not. All this one is 3 separate types of folds. And we'll do this one together. I want to show you this one, okay? So I have an old book. This is an old book that we are no longer going to read. It's actually a book I have read and I don't really like it. And so I'm just going to use it to make some decor. This one's a soft cover. You can do it with a soft cover or a hard cover. And so the first page, what we're going to do is we're just going to fold the first page till the corner hits the spine, and then fold it in like that. Okay, so just take the top corner, fold it down into the spine, and fold it in. Okay, the next page, we're going to do like an airplane fold. We're going to pull both corners in towards the middle, like this, and crease those. Okay, you guys see that? Okay, and then the third one, we're going to take the bottom corner and fold it up till it hits the spine, and crease that. Okay, let me do that again, and we're just going to keep doing it. So the top corner folds in and crease, goes all the way into the spine. Then both corners come towards each other to the middle. Oops. You could do this while you're watching a movie. Your kids could do this. This could be a fun Mother's Day gift or Father's Day gift. So you made a point there. Then you take the bottom corner, bring it to the spine, and crease. Now can you see how I'm starting to make the pattern? All right, top corner in to the spine, crease, middle, or both corners in to the middle, making that paper airplane, crease, bottom corner, bring it to the spine, and crease. And there we go. We've gotten our pattern. Now you can actually go really, really crazy with this, and you can look up patterns where you can make letters and words. I've seen where they've actually spelled words by folding specific folds. I can't get that fancy, but just by doing those 3 kinds of folds, the top corner in, both corners into each other, and then the bottom corner in, and you get this really fun pattern that you can hang on your wall, or you can put on a bookshelf. You could spray paint it a color or decorate it. This one again is just the top corner in. Every page is the same. The top corner is folded in, and then the bottom corner is just folded up to where that top corner is. Let me show you that one real quick on my sample book. So we'll deviate from this pattern. You fold the top corner in. You always do that. And then you're just going to take the bottom corner of that same page and just fold it so that it makes like an airplane fold. You fold it upright, just like that. So the top corner goes in, the bottom corner comes up to the top, and that's why you have that pattern that looks like this. Okay, and you do that with every single page, and that gives you this pattern. I mean, you could just you could put a little styrofoam ball and you have an angel. I mean, you could just go to town on this one. But this is kind of a fun thing to do when you have a book that you don't want to see it end up in the landfill, and it's just not a good book you want to keep on your library shelf. Believe me, I'm a homeschool mom. I have library books, and a library of books. I don't ever want to throw away a book. But there are occasions when I have a book that I don't want to keep, and I don't want to pass it on to somebody else because I don't really like what's inside of it or something. I can't recommend it, but I can turn it into a fun craft. And again, if your kids have some curriculum that they don't want to use it, that they're done using at the end of the year, make something fun out of those pages. So I hope this is fun. Just trying to think of some fun reuse, recycle kind of things that you can do that benefit our environment as we're talking about ecosystems. And we're going to continue to talk about ecosystems. Next time if you join me, I'm not sure what we're going to do yet, but we're just going to continue to have fun. The quarantine is starting to end soon. Thank goodness. I just hope you guys are doing well. But I'm going to keep jumping on occasionally and try to do some fun stuff with you. So thanks for joining me. Hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day.